Hey, what's up everybody? Rob Marzullo here, Ram Studio Comics, and got another video for you today. Today I'm using Sketchbook Pro, and before I go ahead and explain what I'm going to teach you here, let me show you the settings for the pencil. I'm using the hard pencil, as I've had this question in the comments sections below, and this is the settings that I have on the pencil that I'm getting ready to draw with, just so you know if you want to copy the settings if you're using this software. There it is. So figured I'd address that since a few people have asked. Alright, so now spacebar, zoom in, brings the move tool, which you can kind of move around in Sketchbook really fast. What I have here, just to explain quickly, these are just some thumbnails. I like to always practice when I get started to draw on my Blackstone comic book. I always practice thumbnails, different face shots, expressions, eyes, hair, whatever. You know, some textures, brick textures, planet textures, whatever. And then I start drawing on the book. So these are kind of my warm-ups. But the thing I wanted to show you is there's a couple ways to kind of refine your artwork. In this fashion, I'll draw everything on the initial sketch layer like this. Here it's labeled background. I'll put a screen layer in between where I color it blue and put it on screen mode. That turns all this to a blue line. I can drop the opacity of that by dropping the opacity of the first layer, and then next I'll put a layer over top of that. I'm back to my original pencil setting, and I can refine the artwork to the next level. Now that's one way of doing it. Another way is a way that I did this one here. I actually drew a couple layers all at once on the first initial layer. So I'm going to explain that real fast because I kind of like this effect. And I actually started to do it with the eye here also. I take the initial layer, I sketch my quick little thumbnail out like so. I guess I'll refine this guy right here. And you know, keep in mind you want these thumbnails to be fast. I probably drew each one of these in 2-3 minutes tops, if that. So you really want to do these quick ones and actually time yourself on some of them too would be a good idea. So here's my initial thumbnail. I take this eraser, soft eraser, and I'll show you the settings to that. Opacity is right about 50%. We'll put it right at 50. Size 35. It's a soft edge eraser, right? And what I was trying to mimic is if you've ever used like a kneaded eraser on Bristol board, you can sometimes do an effect without using a light table where you draw something out like this, you come back and softly, you know, soften up your lines without erasing the entire thing. Just kind of keep going over it with your kneaded eraser, and that's why I set this eraser settings to kind of mimic that effect. I'll bring it right down to almost transparent. Right about, I guess there is fine. Okay, so now I go back to the pencil here. I come in and try to, you know, refine the lines a little bit more. I'll still keep it just a little bit sketchy just because, I still don't know. Like, I honestly haven't even thought about who this character is or anything like that, but just kind of working out pose ideas and concepts. You know, maybe it's my character Blackstone. Which shameless plug time? You can get Blackstone on indieplanet.com. Be sure to order your copy, and I'm currently working on book 2, so book 1 is available now, and I'll keep them coming out as quickly as I can amongst all the other activities that I have to do in my daily routine. But, so I just refine this artwork a little bit more, not being too critical on myself right now, just kind of working it out. I'm just making sure that it's better than the layer that I just had there, better than the initial first sketch. At least a little bit more information in the line work. Because if you're ever struggling with getting something right with your drawings, you can use this method and just keep redrawing and redrawing. Each time you should be able to offer a little bit more. I would think after about 3 or 4 times of doing this, maybe 5 layers or something, or 5 processes where you erase and redraw, that maybe you would stop, adding as much pertinent data or making it that much better than the one that was down before. But if not, if it just keeps getting better, then just keep going with it. I mean, definitely if it's like a cover piece or something you're really trying to make it shine, then just keep doing this and see how many times you can improve it. Now, if you get stuck on a certain part, like this, up until now, this is all out of my head. You can probably tell because this leg's a little bit short to the body. Rule of thumb for comic drawing, I believe, is the clavicle here to the bottom of the pelvic there should be the top part of the leg. So I think I made this a little bit short, but whatever. I'm just going to roll with it for now because I'm trying to explain more of the process than impress you with my ability to draw a leg, which sucks, and I need to practice legs because legs are tricky, folks. Especially like this foot. I'm already dreading it before I get down to it. I can feel the dread coming. Um, I have a tough time with foot poses, like you'll see right here. But this is where, I would redraw it a couple times and possibly even grab some reference. Feet are tricky. Like, you'd think they'd just be easy because there's not much to them, especially when there's a boot on them or whatever. But it's real easy to mess them up. Why, I don't know. But maybe because we don't sit around and stare at each other's feet enough. I'm going to start staring at other people's feet. That could be an uncomfortable situation. Why are you staring at my feet? Well, I'm an artist and I'm trying to get better. Could you take your shoes off? Alright, so like, alright, there's a little face there, which I always make the mouth too big and then erase it down. So there, something like that. Well, I gave him an ear, so now it can't be black. So let's take his ear off. Bam, that could be Blackstone. So this forearm's smaller. I didn't notice that until just now. But at any rate, so there's that, right? So just by erasing that down and redrawing over it, I stayed on the same layer and I achieved a little bit better sketch than the part before. I mean, there's some glaring mistakes. This arm looks too short for some reason. The legs definitely look too short. But that's where you just grab things. Like Sketchbook is really great for making changes on the fly. You grab the lasso here. I'll grab from the waist down, and I can either grab this middle part and size all of it like that, and then move it all at once, and I'm able to edit that really quickly. And then if I grab this part, which I don't know what these icons are, but I know what they do, you can stretch and I could go either direction. Or you got to let off. That's what it is. You got to let off, and then you can go the other. You can't just so up and down to stretch it up and down, but then you have to let off, and you can pull left to right and widen out the effect. Then just hit the X button. It'll take the change, and there it is. So that's just a quick way to and you can see pulling back now how that looks more refined than the thumbnails next to it, and that was in a short amount of time. So we could do that again and bring it to a more refined layer, and keep going with that process. Now, usually to finish it or ink it, like I've already, I think I drew this one. I sketched it once. I did the soft erase, drew over top, all in the same layer. Now I'll add my screen layer to turn it to a blue line, and I'll come to my next layer and I'll try to add a little bit more refined line work to it. So I'll grab the brush that I like there. I'll make sure my settings are about right. That's about it. Control Z for going back, just so you know. It's pretty standard with most softwares, and Sketchbook has it, which I really like. A couple don't, and I don't know why that is, but I won't get into that. Anyways, I'll stay specific to this today. Sorry, I'm a little bit of ADD there, so I bounce around, and hope I don't lose you guys when I do that. I just lose interest very quickly in something. So all I'm doing here is just trying to clean up those lines. A couple little passes there. Shoop, shoop, shoop. If and the thing is, if it comes out good enough, then I would call it like the final line work and go to color or whatever. But if not, I would just keep doing that process I'm talking about. So that's my main focus of what I'm trying to show you here, that if something if you think you can keep making it better and something's not looking right in your artwork, then by all means just keep doing this effect, and adding a layer, you know, especially if it goes along with the time constraint you might have. You know, if your deadlines aren't extremely steep on the project, then why not? You know, especially if it's you know, something you're doing just to see how good you can get your drawing, then keep adding layers and keep erasing and redrawing and really refine that and get it just right. I always look at it like this too. If I get a piece looking really good, um, I'm going to hang that sucker on the wall, and I'm going to look at that as a reference point and also something to beat. You know, so I constantly do that. You know, and I even have like one on my wall from excuse me, from an old I drew books called Aerial and Assault, and they were some of my first statewide and then national publications. And I still keep the cover to book two on the wall because I remember when that came out, I thought it was so awesome and I did so well with it. And don't get me wrong, I'm still very proud of the fact that I had something published and it got picked up by Diamond and got out there, you know. But I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, my art has come so far from them. Uh, where I'm not ashamed of them, you know what I mean? Like I said, I'm still proud that I was able to get published and do all that. But um, you know, I've learned a lot more about drawing, and I see just tons of flaws in that cover. So if you ever want to see what I'm talking about, I think it's on my DeviantArt, and if not, I can upload it. But it's just an old book cover I did, Aerial Assault Book 2 by Time Comics. So yeah, so I'm just scribbling this little line work in here, trying to add a little bit more data. Uh, if I get stumped on any particular thing, this is just a basic, you know, comic book face, so I shouldn't get stumped here. But if I did, you know, not too proud to look at reference, you know, or pull out some of my old drawings where, you know, I think maybe if I did like a good comic book girl's face or whatever, I'd look at that, look at some of your heroes and illustration work, and you know, I'm not saying rob their stuff, but you know, definitely learn from it and incorporate little bits and pieces into your own work. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how everybody grows. I think every artist is a little bit of their you know, their faves or whatever, their not mentors, but what'd you call it, just their inspirations. How about that? So yeah, just a little more, using that underlying line work as my reference point, but obviously doing something different with it as I draw it in. Top lip's always more in shadow. Now you know what, I'm just gonna fill that in. I don't know why I feel the need to overdo line work and put too much in there, because a lot of times it gets distracting. It's the other thing you got to think about when you draw this stuff, especially when you go to the inking stage. If it's there's too much unnecessary stuff in there, and that's going to be a really small panel in the on the page, it's better to just fill it in. You know, go for the solid, simplistic look, because uh, all that little detail is just going to murk it up and make it harder to read. And you gotta come up with stuff that's a quick read in your work. And the more you do that, uh, the nicer your work's going to look and the more professional you're going to appear. So don't get too, you know, distracted like I do by wanting to overly, you know, put too many lines in there, too many little details. You know, perfect example is even the eyelashes there. You know, if you're going to throw too many in there together, they're just going to read as one, you know, one solid anyways. So you might as well go to that and clean it up and make it one solid, and then it's going to shrink down better, if that makes any sense to you. And the eye, I usually go back and forth when I draw the eyes, just so that I can try to make sure everything's about the same size, consistency. It's real easy to mess up. Nice little shadow under there. Probably a heavier shadow on this side by a little bit. And one way I like to do the eyes is always fill that in first, and say I was going to do any shading in here. Let's see if I can fit a couple of lines in there. which again, if this is going to be a small panel, you probably wouldn't even add those. And then grab the white and do the little glares. And there's always got to be just a little shadow under the neck, or under the neck, under the chin, on the neck, like so. Here's here. A little earring. Anyways. And I always kind of draw like a little bit of the glares to the hair, or glare on the hair from the light. But obviously I could spend hours on just drawing that, so let me jump out of there before I spend too much time. Yeah, so a little bit cleaner. I mean, I'm still not overly impressed with that shot. I think the face looks a little scrunched, the lips look a little bit too big. I might be able to fix that just a hair by grabbing that bottom lip and moving that up. Or you know what, I think it's the top lip. Yeah, it is. The top lip looks way too big. I always do that. Come on. And probably too wide too. Bring that up. And let me erase some of this. Again, that was just hurting the quick read to it. So maybe if this was a close-up shot, I could have added more of that little line work in there and not worried about it. But since this would probably be more of a smaller panel shot or something like that, or maybe she's in the background, then yeah, I'd want all that stuff to read really quick, and I'd want to eliminate a lot of that line work that just murks it up or makes it hard to understand. Always put the darker lines or the thicker lines on the side that's more to the shadow, and I try to just spot in some black here and there to, I don't know, make it stand out more. It just seems too plain or flat right now to me. And then based on if she's a blonde or a brunette, that's also another thing you keep in mind when you're doing some of your line work. At least I do anyways. Like right to this point where I'm adding that much black, it's showing that she's dark hair, so brunette or whatever. So if she's a blonde, I probably would have left the amount of line work it had a minute ago. Okay, so there's that. Anyways, so hopefully that explains to you what I was trying to convey. So you've got two different methods here within inside Sketchbook that you could do that effect to better your artwork. You could start from the thumbnails like we got here, overlay draw, or do the screen layer, then do the drawing layer over top to refine it. Or you could do the erase method with the soft eraser. I'll show you those settings one more time, like that. And to tell you the truth, I'm probably going to start doing more of that one. It felt a little bit more natural, again, because that's what I would have did when I drew on Bristol board a few short years ago. So now I'm predominantly digital, so I wanted to show, I just want you guys to get in the habit of thinking, okay, how do I make this software work for me? How do I make it work more like I would work traditionally? And then your work is going to look less digital and start to look more like traditional comic book work, which in turn is going to make you look more professional, which in turn is going to land you that big job, I hope. So thanks very much for watching today. Be sure to check out Blackstone Eternal on Indie Planet. Follow me on DeviantArt at ramstudios1.deviantart. Like us on Facebook under Ram Studios Comics. Like, subscribe, and don't forget to comment so I can know what you'd like to see in the future, and tell me where I can improve. So always trying to do that. Thanks for watching. Keep drawing. Keep having fun.